There seems to be a trend among First Worldists to try to rehabilitate the image of FDR and Lincoln. Now, I've been seeing some First Worldists run around trying to defend these men as having had something to do with socialism, which is frankly ridiculous. Now, the argument for FDR is, well, he had the New Deal thing. He wanted, certain guarantees and protections, so therefore he's socialist, and therefore the American people are potentially revolutionary. I mean, this is complete nonsense. This is the guy who put Japanese people in internment camps, which is a nice way of saying concentration camp. What FDR argued for was social democracy, at best. Social democracy is not socialism. It's not even a step towards socialism. It's a step away from socialism. It's a way of making capitalism more palatable to people. This is the opposite of building revolution. This is actually taking people away from it. And this really should be common sense. This is what the whole Second International and Lenin's defense was about. It's amazing how these people claim to be Marxist-Leninists, yet they so blatantly go against Lenin on this issue. I mean, it's ridiculous, the mental gymnastics that a lot of First Worldists have to pull in this situation. Social democracy is like the second last line of defense for capitalism, after that being fascism, when capitalism is outright in decay. But when there's a great deal of upheaval and unrest inside of capitalism, social democracy is where it goes. That's where the United States is going right now. And I believe that's very much what's going to happen. There's going to be a great deal of social democratic reforms inside of the United States in the next couple of years. And then as a result, social unrest will decline, and along with that, revolutionary potential for however much you could even claim it exists. Now, this idea that Lincoln was somehow revolutionary or somehow is an icon of revolution or has anything to do with socialism in any way, shape, or form is stupid, that I don't have the descriptive language to explain it. Lincoln was basically the great defender of liberal democracy. His goal was ending slavery so that we could have the liberal democracy that came to rise to challenge feudalism. Now, Lincoln opposed slavery because essentially it was a backwards a backwards mode of production. In order for capitalism to have what it needs labor to be upwardly mobile. In other words, when the market changes, labor has to be able to move into new sectors wherever it's needed. Well, that doesn't happen with slavery because it's slavery. Much of what it is, the way that the South was run, was in what you could describe as, but it would be incorrect to call it, a semi-feudal order, what with these slaves being used as peasants kind of comparison. I'm not saying they're the same thing. I'm saying there's a similarity there. The lack of mobility among labor. And this had to come to an end in order for essentially capitalism to really begin to take off in the United States. That labor has to be available to be moved wherever it is needed. Where this was not the case in the South, where it was basically agricultural based. I mean, the agricultural economy was coming to an end. That's a legacy of feudalism or an underdeveloped nation. Industrialization is the future. I mean, that's obvious. That's why the United States industrialized. That's why there was a great divide between those who wanted to own slaves and those who didn't. Now, Lincoln was the defender of a liberal capitalist democracy. I don't know what this has to do with socialism in any way, shape, or form. I don't see how that was anything but, it was progressive at its time to move from one mode of production to another, but that doesn't have anything to do with socialism. I mean, he wasn't talking anything about workers' rights. mean, he didn't have anything to do with that, and he was still even a reactionary racist. He was against slavery, but only on economic grounds. It wasn't about race. He still opposed people being able to interracial marriage. He still opposed interracial marriage. So it wasn't even like Lincoln was a great anti-racist. So even this whole legendary idea of him being the great emancipator isn't really all that true. I mean, this was something that was based on economics, not human rights. So I don't see how this guy, who is like the archetype of liberal capitalist democracy, is somehow a symbol of socialism. But that's what these people are trying to do. They're trying to rehabilitate both these leaders as somehow being champions of socialism in America, or somehow tied to socialism in America. I mean, this is complete and utter nonsense. I think that this largely stems from the fact that revolution has failed in the United States as it has in the rest of the world. Has there been a revolution in these countries? No, there has not. And there hasn't even been any serious attempt at a revolution in the United States along a Marxist line. Let's face it, the American people don't want a whole new system. They're not looking at this system and saying, oh, this whole capitalism is bad, we need a whole new system. They're looking for reforms, and that's from the alt-right all the way over to the Democrats, or even the most liberal of Democrats. They're looking for reforms to change the system, to alter the system to something that's more palatable to them. They're not looking for a whole new order, a whole new way of being. And because that's true, First Worldism is continuously looking for new things to try to boost its appearance. Is that really the best way to put it? I mean, they're always looking for a stand-in proletariat. Okay, well, the working class in the United States doesn't want anything to do with us, so gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, gender theory, black nationalism, Native American nationalism, and while these groups certainly are oppressed, I wouldn't deny that, they're not the basis for communist revolution, because they're not based on class. I mean, hey, these people deserve liberation and to have their oppression come to an end, of course. But it's not the basis for a communist revolution. And this is kind of along the same lines. When you have this whole, lack of any significant proletariat, they're always looking for a stand-in. They're always trying to rewrite things, try to re-envision history into something that's in their favor, rather than just acknowledge that they're wrong and that their theory is wrong. Everybody knows that Marxist theory has to be updated for the 21st century. Just about everybody acknowledges that. And you've got a couple of books coming out saying Marxism in the 21st century, or the new theory, or new ideas being put forward. But Third Worldism is wrong, because feelings. It never ceases to amaze me how they'll all admit that the orthodoxy is out of date, but when you update it, it's immediately, oh, that's revisionist. Like, it's right there in front of people. People can see it. It's right there. They just don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to acknowledge that they're beneficiaries of imperialism, because their identity is so tied to considering themselves a poor, exploited, oppressed proletarian that it gets to proportions of nonsense. But I mean, to get back on track to the thing, calling FDR socialist, or Abraham Lincoln a socialist, or even this stuff even coming along any kind of social line, is frankly just stupid. I mean, it's not even just reactionary in revisionist of history. It's just outright stupid. It doesn't make any sense. And this just shows the gap in theory, that there is the orthodoxy, and then there is the way things are now. And there's something in between that has to explain that. And this promotion of Abraham Lincoln and FDR is nothing more than a really reactionary way of trying to bridge that gap. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.